Optus is pleased to present Beyond 2000, a glimpse of tomorrow, today. Optus.
Tonight, genetically determined sexuality.
The suggestion that the sexual orientation of a man is predetermined has sparked an intense debate.
And fire protection by remote control.
It doesn't matter if the fire has already destroyed the local telephone lines or the power lines for that matter.
Your future, Beyond 2000.
Almost all new parents are nervous. No matter what you've read or what people have told you, nothing can prepare you for the daunting task of taking care of a baby.
You gotta come with Dad for a minute. Oh.
You have to learn almost everything from scratch. And the most stressful time is bedtime. If she's crying, you worry about what's wrong. But if she's silent, then you fear the worst.
Look at that little face. Dr. John looks at sudden infant death syndrome and discovers that water, or rather a baby's innate response to it, may play a role in this complex disorder. But more on that later.
On a lighter note, games for big kids.
There you go.
Good, having a great time.
These have certainly come a long way since the first pinball machines.
Oh, dear.
Now the emphasis is to make fantasy as realistic as possible. So join me now as I take command of the ultimate simulator.
Inside the volcano.
A secret island.
Destroy the island's defenses.
A secret base.
Find your way inside to destroy the base.
Welcome aboard the Commander. This is no ordinary computer game. At your fingertips is an experience once available only to the pros. Pilot your way across a fictional sky, choose your headings, select your targets.
Turn action initiated. You have 10 seconds to escape.
Fly whichever way you like for 3 minutes of absolute fantasy.
4, 3, 2, 1. Mission accomplished.
Game over, and it's back to reality. The illusion, though, was compliments of a miniature flight simulator. The little brother, if you like, of the multi-million-dollar sims used in civil and military aviation. That technology is increasingly being applied in the entertainment industry to create the level of thrill and excitement that will satisfy an ever more demanding public.
Flaps 20.
This is Kevin Williams. He's a simulator pilot for Reader Fusion Simulation, who've been making flight simulators for 4 decades. These days, Kevin spends less time in here and most of his workday playing games. Or, as he sees it, evaluating the simulation experience and seeking out the things that make our hearts beat faster.
1,000 feet field inside. Flaps 30. Landing checklist.
Flaps 30.
A 30-knot crosswind on a wet runway at Hong Kong Airport can really test a 767 pilot.
Flaps 30. 55 over 5.
Even though we all imagine we want to experience the real thing, in truth, reality isn't always that exciting. Even a fairly dramatic landing like this one can seem pretty slow and tedious if you're not a pilot. But in the fantasy world of the Commander, time, space and motion all take on a different perspective. And in order to turn this $25 million flight sim into a heart-stopping arcade game, it's been necessary to strip away its subtleties and take a whole lot of reality out.
Good luck. You'll need it.
Some fancy flying. You fly, I'll shoot.
Right, here we go.
Dodge this incoming missile. Rediffusion began with extremely complex technology, then set about making it simple and a whole lot cheaper. Cramming so much computing oomph into a 3-minute ride is possible only with today's super small and super fast computer chips.
Once we've got the big targets, flying sight. So here comes the tanker. Got a lot, fire some missiles. Here's the thrust, get some altitude.
Like a real sim, it responds to your commands, but it's faster, rougher and much easier to fly. Accelerate from 0 to 1900 kilometres an hour in 6 seconds as enemy fighters with the wingspan of a jumbo jet buzz past mountains the size of Everest. Hydraulic lift, roll and pitch fool your inner ear into feeling slew, yaw and forward motion as well. Okay, we crashed.
Just a little.
All it takes to fly the Commander, apart from joystick skills, is an IBM clone PC with 44 megabyte hard disk drive and 13 megabytes of RAM, an off-the-shelf audio card, and 4 purpose-designed boards, the bottom 3 generating graphics. Now, the top card drives the hydraulics and also talks to another computer in the nose, which reads the signals that you input via the joystick. Up to 7 microprocessors are able to track your journey through the game. Let's take a mountain. Single screen front or rear view 3D graphics update 20 times a second, only a third as often as a full-blown sim. Fly solo or as a team, steer with one joystick and fire with the other. And just when you think you've learned the game and beaten the program, pull up, you've got to get out of here in a hurry.
10 seconds.
A networking card will link up to 30 commanders for one heck of an interactive dogfight. Well done.
Thank you.
If dodging missiles and enemy fighters isn't quite your style, perhaps you prefer a sightseeing jaunt over the surface of Mars. Software from Californian company LucasArts will turn the battle-ready Commander into a space-cruising shuttle, a submarine, or just about anything else the designers dream up. You'll soon be able to climb aboard at airports, shopping centres, or the local pinball parlour. Have a safe flight.
SIDS and SEALs, what do they have in common?
Find out next.
If you worked for a company that said yes as often as we do, wouldn't you be smiling too? Optus.
So where's our starving? Should have been here hours ago. I'm starving.
Well, it's not exactly the Last Supper, but here you go.
For a short time only, buy the 12-pack Ruffles handy bag and you'll discover they're now tastier than ever. New tastier salt and vinegar, new tastier chicken, and miraculously, inside you will find 3 extra bags of Ruffles for no extra money.
David Jones' pricing policy ensures that our prices are as low or even lower than our competitors, even when they're on sale. And at David Jones, we're proud of the selection, quality and service we provide our customers. We also offer our own guarantee for your complete satisfaction. So when our pricing policy ensures you pay no more, why shop anywhere else?
The new
Mazda T-Series trucks have arrived. So now you can buy a superseded Mazda T-Series for just $20,990. It's a Mazda end-of-model clearance that's built to work.
Imagine the mystery of Pharaoh's tomb. The night under an African sky. Imagine the cool of an English maze. Or the flaming rocks of time. And Bristol Paint's incredible true colour computer will match the colour exactly time after time after time.
Tonight, Danny takes on that busty iconoclast, Al McFeast, and that bouncing ball of fun, Tim Smith. Danny Bonaducci doing it his way on Tonight Live.
When you do that, it's not the water that wakes you, but a complex suite of changes to the way that your body works. It's called the diving response, and all mammals have it. When you immerse your face in water, your heart slows, you take a deep breath, and oxygen is selectively shunted to the brain. It's almost as if you've been pushed underwater and you don't know when you're going to be able to breathe again.
What you see is the baby
Water
slide
is a
right
familiar environment for us. We get used to it as we float around in the amniotic cavity during the first 9 months of life. The diving reflex is a survivor of a more primitive time in our genesis and is protective by selectively shunting oxygen to the brain.
down here in the ribs.
As such, it may play an important part in the process of birth.
Feet up here. See the little
But that
toes?
protective effect
The heel
may
up
later work against us. No one is sure why 1 in 500 babies die quietly in their sleep. In the Western world, sudden infant death syndrome is the most common cause of death in otherwise well babies. There are lots of theories as to why, but the bottom line is sudden infant death, or SIDS babies, have apnea. That means they fail to breathe. Researchers are theorising the diving response may have gone wrong, that for some reason a baby at risk may respond to an external stimuli, a mattress or a blanket against its face, as if it was immersed in water, and suffer an alteration in heart rate and lung function that ultimately leads to death. Two years ago, Professor Mike Castellini was researching the habits of northern elephant seals that breed on the coast of Central California. They're a species of mammal that's perfected the diving response. Elephant seals travel vast distances and often dive in excess of 1,000 meters in search of food. Perfectly adapted to their environment, they can breath hold for over an hour, whether asleep or diving. But Mike discovered seals are not born with this ability. It's a trick they must learn on land. The 3-month-old pups in this herd of elephant seals are learning to hold their breath. At the moment, they can only manage 4 or 5 minutes. Now, the interesting thing is that their relatively undeveloped heart and lung systems at this stage closely resemble the situation that's found in infants who have narrowly avoided sudden infant death syndrome. The difference is breath-holding baby seals don't die. Unlike the adult, seal pups aren't able to control their heart rate as they alter their breathing. Breathe in, the heart rate should increase. Breathe out, and it should slow. It's a phenomenon called sinus arrhythmia. That's similar to a situation that's thought to occur in many cases of cot death. This pup is 80 days old and has been abandoned by its mother, who's returned to the ocean to feed. It'll spend the next 2 days in the Seal Motel as a guest of the Institute of Marine Science before being returned to the beach. During the pup's visit, most of which he'll spend asleep, marine biologists will monitor his sleep patterns, heart rate, biochemistry, and the dynamics of his heart and respiratory system.
Should be it.
Cute as he looks, This young male has power to spare and a very strong jaw. What do we do now? Run?
No, we don't have to run. We'll have a controlled exit.
Ready.
Despite the poorly developed diving response and sinus arrhythmia, there are no known cases of sudden death in the species. As the seal develops, so does the ability to hold the heart rate down during breath holding and to vary it in a regular pattern with breathing. What we're measuring here is the heart rate in relation to the breathing activity of the seal. Now, the straight line indicates that at the moment the seal isn't breathing and the heart rate is correspondingly quite low. It's in the mid-40s. A flurry of activity early on was during a period when it was breathing and the heart rate was much higher. But the problem for this pup is that the response of the heart in relation to breathing is still immature, and it's not strong enough to sustain it during the long dives which are necessary to survive at sea. But that will come later, when the neurological system, tuned by repeated efforts of breath holding, is mature enough to monitor and control the various systems. Somehow, the seal can sense its readiness for the sea and will not venture out until well and truly prepared.
Hey, John, this is what we're looking at. This pup's ready to go to sea.
Oh, I see. So this is the EEG reading.
That's right.
Here.
That's the sleeping pattern.
Okay. Oh, sinus arrhythmia. This is what you were talking about earlier.
Right. This is the variation in heart rate as the pup is breathing here. And it shows that it's really well developed, the sinus arrhythmia, has a real nice slow heart rate during the breath hold. This pup is quite mature.
Now, Mike Castellini is the first to caution that SIDS is a complex disorder without a simple solution. Being a parent himself, he's wary of false hope. But the work of the Institute is being acknowledged as a step in the right direction.
What we'd like the medical field to do in terms of analyzing and looking at infants that might be at risk for SIDS is, in addition to looking at the entire time that the infant is asleep and the heart rate and the respiration control while the baby is actually sleeping, is to look at the periods when the baby spontaneously holds its breath while it's asleep at nighttime. And what we think is true, if it's the same case it is for the seals, that infants at risk for SIDS might show some sort of different pattern in heart rate analysis and a respiratory pattern during the time that they're actually holding their breath.
These gigantic mammals are also teaching biologists more about adult breath holding, or sleep apnea, a human condition that causes restless nights, daytime drowsiness, high blood pressure, and premature stroke. Comparative physiology, the way one animal works compared to another, has a lot to offer humans, but it demands the scientific blinkers be removed. It's curious that a species we hunted almost to extinction could be so different from us in manner and appearance, yet ironically offer subtle similarities and even a modicum of hope for our future.
Phone home. Your house is on fire. That story after the break.
Say g'day.
You got a hair as beautiful as mine.
It's the all-new series of Fast Forward.
Let's not go with 4 stars.
All your old friends and some new ones.
Don't play the power chord. No, you can't make the power chord inside
Fast
the jug.
Forward. The all-new series presented by Toyota. Thursday, 8:30 on 7.
Descend to 3000. Report visual. Landing on the crossing runway. We'll take a shot.
Descend 5000 and turn left, heading 0. Speed to 250 knots. The sequence is there.
The biggest thing in aviation is about to take off in Australia and all around the world. It's the new Qantas Australian Frequent Flyer program. Every time you fly Qantas or Australian Airlines, you'll earn points to fly free on either airline. Be recognized as a member of Qantas Australian Frequent Flyer. Join now and fly free and get the best of both worlds. Ring 008 808 506. Qantas Australian Frequent Flyer.
It started with the creation of the Sony Trinitron more than a quarter of a century ago. Not surprisingly, the next great leap in picture and sound has again come from Sony. The new Carrara Basso from the makers of Trinitron Television.
When George and Marge wanted the facts on annuities, they turned to their AMP agent.
he gave them the personal service and professional advice they needed to help them reach their financial goals. AMP, we'll always be there.
New Honda Accord Revista, the masterpiece. A virtuoso performer with a repertoire of features, luxury, and unsurpassed value. For reliability, Accord is the #1 choice of Australia's leading consumer magazine. Drive new Accord Revista for a limited time only at your Honda dealer now. Experience a masterpiece.
Descend to 3,000 and turn left, heading 3.
Be recognized as a member of Qantas Australian Frequent Flyer. Join now to fly free and get the best of both worlds. Ring 008 808 506. Qantas Australian Frequent Flyer.
Suburbia. It could be many places in the world. This just happens to be in South Australia. The leafy suburb of Heathfield on the outskirts of Adelaide. But that same leafy environment that makes this such a pleasant place to live can turn nasty. Can threaten the lives of all who live here. The cost of what was very quickly tagged Ash Wednesday was enormous by any measure. In this state alone, 28 people lost their lives. Almost 1,000 cars damaged, 250,000 sheep killed. 383 houses were either destroyed or badly damaged, and as a result, the building code here has been changed to try and stop houses catching alight. The walls and ceilings now have fireproof insulation. Any vents are covered with this fine wire gauze to prevent sparks or embers getting in. But now, there's a way to make your home even safer. 36-year-old Gary Hayes used his plumbing trade knowledge to come up with his patented bushfire protection system. The key element is the deceptively simple slotted sprinkler heads that ensure not only the necessary volume gets delivered to protect the house, but the shape of the spray maximises the water's cooling effect. 6 1/4 litres of water per minute can be delivered to each square metre, but different nozzles and slot sizes provides adaptability. High on the roof, a fine mist envelops 3 to 4 metres around the house. With the strong winds usually associated with wildfires, this mist gets caught up in a swirling, balling effect. Any wind-blown sparks get extinguished by this, while the running water directed down the exterior surfaces of the house creates a barrier to stop the temperatures inside rising to dangerous levels. Up to 75% of the water can be collected from the guttering and drains and recycled back into the firefighting system.
42 degrees, a real scorcher today. Bushfire danger is extremely high, so try...
But the innovative feature is the system's ability to be remotely activated. Just call a familiar radio paging service and automatically your home fire defence system will be activated without further human intervention. It doesn't matter if the fire has already destroyed the local telephone lines or the power lines for that matter. This solar panel will keep fully charged the battery that powers all of this. If the water mains pressure has dropped, you've got 22,000 litres over 5,000 gallons here. And the radio's signal from the pager will activate the pump. And within 5 to 10 seconds, you've got water where it's needed. Instead of the pager, a handheld remote can also be used to activate the system. Essentially, an individually coded radio transmitter. It can be operated within a kilometre radius of your home. But the greatest potential benefits may flow to these people, the men and women who volunteer for the Country Fire Service, who put their lives at risk to save life and property. While each house fitted with the system has the individual pager code you use, it also has a second code that can be utilised by the firefighters on the ground or above. So in future, a most useful weapon in the fight against fire may be a helicopter-borne laptop computer holding the paging codes of an entire district. As the operator sees the advancing fire front, street after street could have their defence systems activated to make sure that instead of a pile of ashes, there is a suburban home sweet home to come back to.
Dental researchers are currently working on a series of innovations which will probably make fillings a thing of the past. In the future, we'll see dentists using ultrasound techniques which will detect decay long before it can be spotted now. And you may not even have to visit the dentist for checkups. We could use a special take-home dye solution which would change colour when decay is present. That's in the future. If you want to know what's just around the corner in dental technology, it's these. Glass fluoride pellets. They're undergoing clinical trials in Britain. 100 Leeds schoolchildren are having a single pellet glued to a back molar. Once in contact with moisture, the specially designed glass slowly dissolves, releasing tiny amounts of fluoride into the mouth. And each pellet should last more than 2 years. The idea of fluoride-releasing devices isn't new, but to date, no one has designed one which could be sufficiently regulated, or which was strong enough to take the wear and tear. There's also the problem of teeth mottling or staining. This can occur when young children are exposed to high levels of fluoride during the period of enamel formation. The makers of these pellets say they won't cause staining, as the levels of fluoride released are well under the dosage which causes mottling, and they're designed for children over 8 years. If the trial goes as predicted, the pellets could be available to the public within 2 to 3 years.
Next, a big question.
Why are there gay people? Why are there lesbians? Why are there bisexual?
Some answers after the break.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Right away. Okay, no problem.
It's our pleasure.
Isn't it nice to deal with a company that has so many ways to say
Yes.
Optus.
In a country as unpredictable as Australia, your family deserves all the protection you can give them. The powerful new Australian designed and built Mitsubishi Verada V6 wagon.
This week, Kmart is not having a sale, it's having the sale. Kitchen Master 6-speed mixer with revolving bowl and dough hooks just $27 at the sale. Full-size Jacquard bath towels just $4.95 each at the sale. 4 litres of Berger interior paint just $28.50 at the sale. And Cameo sheet set single $14, double $24, queen $26. There's thousands of discounted discounts store-wide only at the sale, only at Kmart.
Making an upside-down no-frost refrigerator is one thing. Making it work efficiently is another. That's why Kelvinator developed the twin-air no-frost system. It directs a controlled stream of cold air from the freezer right up into the refrigerator, keeping meat fresher in a super-chilled area, vegetables crisper, and drinks colder. So for the best in upside-down refrigeration, go with the flow. The Kelvinator twin-air no-frost system.
Smooth tasting, naturally brewed, refreshing Tooheys Red. No additives and no preservatives. So when it comes to taste, no contest.
I checked my super. I'll only get about 3 years' salary when I retire. I hope for better than that. That's why I'm talking to an AMP agent to work out how to get the super I need.
Plan the retirement you want with AMP Super. AMP will always be there.
Wednesday night,
We'll work weekends. Weekends are very good for me.
7 presents one of the liveliest comedies ever.
It's just Bernie.
The story of a couple of loony losers
Why do these things always happen to me?
who hit the jackpot
Is this great or what?
when they meet up with one totally chilled out dude.
Never seen you this relaxed before.
Hey, he may be departed,
You hear something?
but he's still the life of the party.
Get your hand off me, Bernie.
The new Nissan presents Weekend at Bernie's, 8:30 Wednesday on Channel 7.
It was only in 1973 that the American Psychiatric Association stopped calling homosexuality a mental disorder. The World Health Organization still classified it as a disease until 1981. In the 90s, this man, Dr. Simon LeVay, has cast a very different light on the issue. His research findings are the first indication that homosexual men are born that way.
The suggestion that the sexual orientation of a man is predetermined has sparked an intense debate.
Every few years, a study's published claiming to demonstrate either a sex difference in the brain or some physiological or brain correlate of sexual orientation. And almost without exception, these studies have failed to be replicated.
If Dr. LeVay's findings are proven to be correct, it will change forever the environment in which homosexuality is viewed.
I feel like most gay men, I think, feel that their being gay is not just some sort of rather trivial aspect of their person, you know, like what job they have or something like that, but something very much in the center of their, you know, personality and being. And so that most gay people, I think, are not surprised to find like this. I think more, you know, straight people perhaps feel it's a little harder to accept.
In his laboratory at San Diego's Salk Institute, LeVay studied the brains of 41 people who had died before the age of 60. 19 were homosexual men, 16 were presumed heterosexual men, and 6 were women. He found that a cluster of neurons in the anterior hypothalamus was less than half the size in homosexual than in heterosexual men. It's a region of the brain that has been linked in the past to sexual behaviour. But LeVay is the first to acknowledge that the findings need replicating before any conclusive evidence is established.
Sexuality is a big mystery, and my research certainly did not solve that mystery. You know, it's just like opening a tiny little door and hopefully leading to an avenue of research that will answer the questions.
In the experiment, tissue samples from the hypothalamus were placed into a solution containing a dye. Then, under microscopic examination, LeVay found that 1 of 4 particular nuclei in the hypothalamus was indeed smaller in the brains of the homosexual men. The prevailing wisdom was that sexual orientation was primarily influenced by an individual's environment as much as anything else. A neurohormonal theory substantially alters the terrain.
The bottom line is that, you know, at present we just don't know.
Dr. William Bine of Columbia University's Department of Psychiatry is the most forthright critic of the work. He says the methodology of the study was questionable, citing among his reasons that all the homosexuals had died of AIDS. He also believes the international publicity the work has attracted has only compounded the problems surrounding the issue.
The findings are consistent with a lot of people's expectations, so they don't question them.
LeVay's response to the AIDS question is that the neuron clusters in the brains of the 6 heterosexual men who had died from AIDS were still larger than the homosexual men. Carl and Robert Parker are twins.
Here's a copy of the program from that concert Wednesday night.
They were participants in another controversial study, also focused on the biology of sexual orientation.
Well, I thought it was, the research is actually kind of long overdue, as a matter of fact. I was surprised that there had been no actual scientific research done on the subject before now.
Michael Bailey and colleague Richard Pillard set out to determine what differences there are in the sexuality of twin brothers. Given that one twin is gay, they found that of 56 identical twins, 52% were both gay. That dropped to 22% for fraternal twins and 11% for adoptive brothers.
I think that I would go far enough to say that male sexual orientation has a substantial genetic component. Whether it's 30%, 50%, or 70%, I'm not exactly sure. But even the low estimate that I gave, 30%, is a big chunk.
What is your brother's sexual orientation?
He's married, he's straight, he has 3 children.
Critics of the study say too much has been left unanswered, such as why, in some cases, only one of the identical brothers was homosexual.
I'm not sure when I really realized it.
Dr. Bailey acknowledges that cultural and environmental factors must have some bearing.
When did you come out to your brother?
I never really did openly. He knows. We've never really openly discussed it. There's no real reason to.
Jerry Johnson also took part in the study. He's politically active, publishing a gay newspaper in his hometown of Milwaukee. He firmly believes he was born gay.
Why are there gay people? Why are there lesbians? Why are there bisexuals? Is there a reason in the overall universal pattern that this exists? And is there a need or necessity for this in the biological nature of man? I think that's a major question.
Then there's the need to consider whether the reverse is true. That is, whether a person's sexual orientation influences the way the brain forms, rather than the other way round. It may be that the neurons change as a result of personal experience. That theory will require ongoing studies tracking babies through to adults.
That of a homosexual lifestyle.
For Carl Parker, the discovery that he was gay did come later in life.
And for me, it didn't end up being a difficult, quote, decision. But in saying that, I guess I would want to emphasize that doesn't mean that I had a choice, like you pick ice cream flavors or pick a movie. I didn't have a choice in terms of fulfillment for my life, even though I had experience in a heterosexual environment.
The concern is that if a cause for homosexuality is found, some will go in search of a cure. At least 3 laboratories are currently looking for genes that might influence sexual orientation.
If they find such genes, and no one knows whether they will or not, but if they do, that will indeed raise serious questions about how society is going to deal with the information that comes from that, you know.
I guess I would have to couch my response in also the fact that I would hope by the time medical research got to that point that the issue of homosexuality would not be one that was as volatile or as negative as it is today, and that parents being able to determine that an unborn child is gay would not automatically mean those parents wanted to reject that child because of the sexual orientation over which they and the child had no control. It doesn't matter to me whether it's biological or environmental or, as I believe, probably a combination matrix situation of both. I think far more important is an acknowledgement that kind of what one does with that is more important than exactly where it came from.
For now, the task is to prove or disprove Dr. LeVay's findings. But many aren't convinced that attitudes will change even with conclusive proof.
One thing that comes to mind is racism. Certainly no one would challenge the genetic or biological basis of race, but I don't see that immutable or incontrovertible biological evidence having any impact on racism.
If genetics does help determine our sexuality, it will be one of the most significant scientific findings of this century. But right now, the research and the debate have a long road to travel.
We're just looking into this on a very basic level right now. We don't know the answers by any means at this point. I think we will learn more in the next 5 years or 20 years or 50 years, and hopefully there'll be absolute proof in the near future. But I don't think we're going to fully understand it in my lifetime.
Whether you agree or disagree with the idea of finding a cause for homosexuality, most of the gay men we've spoken to say the outcome of the research means a lot to them. If there is a biological basis to their sexuality, they say it will go a long way to removing the intolerance and the ignorance that's plagued their lives.
Later in the programme, meat which defies rotting.
This beef is 18 months old. It hasn't been frozen or dried, and yet it's completely edible.
And next,
a mysterious end to life in an ancient walled city.
In the hustle-bustle world of the 90s, where every moment brings change, we need more news and information than ever before. Information that tells the truth. Information that's there when you need it. Because in a world like this one, you can't afford to be alone.
You're not. 7, your information network.
At Tucker Bag, we're really ripping into prices. Rip out our saving slips and you can get ripper deals like these.
Cold and chips, 3-pack varieties on special at $2.48. Take in a saving slip and save an extra 50 cents. Mildura fruit drink varieties on special at $1.18. Take in a saving slip and save an extra 40 cents. And Rinaldi and Kookaburra pasta varieties on special at 98 cents. A saving slip will save you an extra 30 cents.
Get your saving slips and rip into Tucker Bag.
Look out for you at Tucker Bag.
Good morning.
How are you?
I booked my Commodore wagon. They tell you beforehand what the service is going to cost.
Hi.
I think that's important.
Holden-Wise manual covers 4 key areas of control on the engine management system.
These days, Holden's are pretty high-tech, so you've got to know what you're doing. There's lots of different systems. IRS, ABS, engine computing.
No one knows Holden's better than those guys. So I risk going anywhere else. It's all done by the book, too.
We call this our workmanship guarantee. 6 months or 10,000 kilometres.
It's nice to know they guarantee the lot. It definitely pays to be Holden-Wise.
Install Bradford Gold bats in your ceiling now, and you could be 10 degrees warmer in winter, 7 degrees cooler in summer, and $300 richer every year.
They gave us a weekend at Bernie's. Now they show you what happens when you shake the family tree. All the nuts fall out.
I've got a good idea. Stop the car!
Great sicko.
I saved your foot.
Tom Selleck, Don Amici, folks.
A kitten like Spike is a bundle of energy, unlike old Sam, who prefers a quiet life. Whiskers knows they've got different needs. So for Sam, there's new Whiskers Senior, with all the extra goodness he needs now that he's eating less. And for Spike, Whiskers Kitten, with heaps of energy and protein so he can grow up big and strong. Whiskers really does know cats best.
If you have a figure like this, you're very lucky, because most pantyhose manufacturers figured this is what most women look like, except Osti, who understand that women also look like this, and this, and this. So Osti designed a range of pantyhose to fit all shapes and sizes perfectly, which means they're more comfortable, they last longer, and they look good. Osti pantyhose for women of all shapes and sizes.
Africa, where human history started. But as with most history, there are still plenty of gaps in our knowledge. Take this place, for example, the walled city of Great Zimbabwe. Like me, you may never have heard of this place before, and yet this is one of the most extraordinary examples of ancient architecture. a city that housed 20,000 people, the same number as in medieval London. It survived so far for almost 1,000 years. The largest stone monument in sub-Saharan Africa, the ancient city of Great Zimbabwe, stands 300 kilometres south of Harare, the capital of modern Zimbabwe. These ruins were once the centre of a great African civilization. Between the 11th and 16th centuries AD, the people here traded with countries as far away as Arabia and China. But then something went wrong. The city was abandoned and forgotten for almost 300 years. Nobody knows just what happened, but the winds of change brought this technically advanced society to a mysterious end. That mysterious history has been further complicated by deliberate attempts to interfere with the truth. Ignoring evidence from 3 separate archaeological excavations, the former White Rhodesian government wrote in official guides that Great Zimbabwe was constructed not by Africans, but by Arabs or Europeans. That is now acknowledged to be wrong. What's extraordinary about this construction is that there's nothing holding the blocks of stone together. No cement or mortar, just craftsmanship and gravity. A breathtaking feat of engineering, but it's also the cause of many structural weaknesses. The main cause of instability lies in the way the walls were constructed. 2 outer faces built with regular-shaped blocks in level layers, separated by a core of similar-sized stone blocks stacked in a more irregular fashion. With nothing to bond the 3 sections together, eventual collapse is almost inevitable, as foundations slip and rainfall and vegetation eat away at cracks and joins. What you can see here are 2 very different types of wall. This section has been restored around the turn of the century. That looks very neat. This section here is the old traditional wall built 1,000 or so years ago. Now the problem is that the new restored section looks quite out of character with the traditional wall, and that's something that the conservationists want to avoid in the future. The question now is how to protect the stone walls against further collapse. It would be easy enough to cement them together or support them with steel and concrete buttresses, but that would be unsightly and out of character. It's obviously important that we conserve ancient monuments like Great Zimbabwe for posterity. But perhaps there's another important lesson to be learnt. All the evidence suggests that the people who used to live here had to leave because of an environmental disaster. They'd created an ecological imbalance. They overfarmed the surrounding land. They chopped down too many trees. And in the end, their civilization failed and crumbled. It's a problem we face on a much greater scale today. The decline and fall of Great Zimbabwe is a powerful reminder of how fragile civilization can be. However great it is, it cannot survive without sustainable and renewable resources. Ignore that truth, and you risk becoming a monument to past glories.
After the break, Amanda asks,
so how is it that I can eat this meat that's never been in a freezer and hasn't come out of a can?
If you worked for a company that said yes as often as we do, wouldn't you be smiling too? Optus.
There's no way we can say Shell Ultra Unleaded with Sparkader there's nothing like it. No, because Shell has spent an arm and a leg developing this Sparkader. So we've got to tell people what it does, that it gives improved combustion, smoother acceleration, better performance. It's unique.
Oh, you mean to say there's nothing like it?
Now you come to mention it.
When you guys are finished?
No, that's
when
right.
you're ready. When you're ready.
Great.
Just waiting.
Nasty.
Yeah,
your best holiday. Jet set, let's go. We've seen the places where you'll stay. Jet set, let's go. North, south, east or west. Get holidays that are the best. Jet set, let's go. Jet set, let's go. Jet set, let's go.
It is the most acclaimed sports coupe in Europe. It has a powerful 16-valve high-performance engine, independent rear suspension, anti-lock brakes, and a level of interior appointments unequaled by any car in its class. It is the most aerodynamic production car in the world. It is Calibra. The new Calibra from General Motors Holden, fully imported from Germany.
To improve the Reach toothbrush so it's more maneuverable, we've equipped it with deep thumb grips and shaped the head. Now, hard-to-reach black teeth and gums are easier to get to. For a better clean, get the new Reach toothbrush.
A kitten like Spike is a bundle of energy, unlike old Sam, who prefers a quiet life. Whiskers knows they've got different needs. So for Sam, there's new Whiskers Senior, with all the extra goodness he needs now that he's eating less. And for Spike, Whiskers Kitten, with heaps of energy and protein so he can grow up big and strong. Whiskers really does know cats best.
Buried in the past lies a secret that could change a boy's life forever. Will a custody battle unearth a family murder in the heat of the night tonight?
Tomorrow on Real Life,
We focus on the quality of life.
meet the remarkable woman behind the world-renowned Cat Quality.
It's really special to me.
She's just a wonderful person.
Devoting her life to giving special kids a wonderful gift.
It makes you feel really good.
A heartwarming story not to be missed.
It has a happy ending.
Real Life, 6:30 tomorrow on 7.
This, of course, is as fresh as meat gets. But all the meat on this beast would be wasted if not for refrigeration. Meat production worldwide relies on being able to keep it chilled. From the moment it's slaughtered till the time it arrives on your table, maybe halfway around the world. In Argentina, meat wasn't a commercial proposition until 1910. There were plenty of cows, but because no cold room facilities were available, they were valued only for their tongues, which could be salted, and the hides, which could be tanned. What couldn't be eaten immediately was left to rot. This Argentine beef is 18 months old. It hasn't been frozen or dried, and yet it's completely edible. Even when meat's cooked like this, without refrigeration, it would normally go off within just a few days. Not only would it be unpalatable, it would be full of microbes, so it would be positively dangerous. So how is it that I can eat this meat that's never been in a freezer and hasn't come out of a can? INTA, Argentina's National Institute for Agricultural Technology, has been investigating ways to prolong the shelf life of meat for countries where refrigeration is scarce or non-existent. The winning formula is a combination of well-known processes: curing, cooking, vacuum packing, and standard food irradiation by gamma rays. The formula itself is being kept a secret, but they believe they've struck the right balance between safety, the elimination of microbes that cause food poisoning, and taste. Each batch is vacuum sealed and left at room temperature for over a year before the staff and the occasional visitor are summoned to take part in a taste test. Well, if portion size is anything to go by, this should taste like nouvelle cuisine. Anyway, let's see how batch 183 measures up. Smells okay. Be like corned beef. Here goes. A little dry. Quite tasty though. It's actually not as salty as I thought it would be. It's not your eye fillet, and it could probably do with a bit of mustard, but that's not bad for meat that's 18 months old. We're asked to judge the sample's flavour, juiciness, tenderness, colour and chewiness. There's no point boiling meat at 100 degrees to make it perfectly safe if its taste and appearance are drastically affected. So they've opted for relatively low heat, mild curing agents and low doses of irradiation. The meat is constantly tested throughout its shelf life for signs of free radicals, which are produced if the irradiation level has been too high. And it's biochemically analysed to look for the microorganisms that cause botulism. If all goes well with their trials, this long-life meat will be released on the market within the next 2 years. We tend to take refrigeration for granted, yet it's a luxury many third world countries can't afford. A product like this could be shipped to an African port, for example, left on the dock for any length of time, put on the back of an ordinary pickup truck and taken to an open-air market that's 1,000 kilometres from the nearest refrigerator. By the time this makes it to the consumer, it could still have a shelf life of up to 2 years. It's an effective and economic way of supplying protein to the people who need it most.
Early next century, the hottest tourist destination could be in outer space, but only if the enormous costs of launching spacecraft are dramatically reduced. Next week, Ian Finlay looks at space travel on a budget.
1, 0, and liftoff.
This is the DCY, the full-scale orbital prototype that's due to fly by the end of 1996. But at the moment, they're working on a smaller suborbital version, which will be a 1/3 scale flying prototype called the DCX. But even this one, when it's built, will be 39 feet or about 4 stories high.
And from the depths of space to the depths of the ocean.
It is, of course, anchored to the seabed, more than half a kilometre beneath me. And that makes it the deepest production platform in the world.
Also,
what's new from olive oil?
Plastic plates made from salad dressing. You may be eating off them very soon. Discover the world of bioplastics on the next edition of Beyond 2000. I hope you'll join us then.
Stay on 7 now for In the Heat of the Night. Then at 10:30, round off the evening with Tonight Live the Bonaducci Way, as Danny's guests include a luscious Elle McFeast and a very amusing Tim Smith. A rib tickler ahead on Tonight Live here on 7 Melbourne. 7:30 tomorrow night on Hey Dad, Martin learns a lesson from an old school chum. Then at 8 on Acropolis Now, Jim is overwhelmed by 2 marriage acceptances. Fun tomorrow on 7 with Hey Dad and Acropolis Now. Then at 8:30 you'll die laughing with A Weekend at Bernie's, as Andrew McCarthy and Jonathan Silverman take a holiday from hell. Don't miss the hilarious Weekend at Bernie's, 8:30 tomorrow on 7.
Optus was pleased to present Beyond 2000, a glimpse of tomorrow, today. Optus.
Natasha has been chosen to be a Dine food critic because of her highly developed sense of smell and impeccable taste. Before any of the new Dine 100% meat or 100% seafood recipes are offered to your cat, they must first get 100% approval from Natasha and other Dine food critics. New Dine, Your cat would rather dine than eat.
The sight of the Earth floating in space has changed our way of seeing things forever. There is only one Earth and one humanity, a common environment in which everything is connected and interdependent. This picture assumes the power of a new icon imbued